global competitors, and then the other end, which is the value consumer, which is store brands, low-cost brands, etc. So you're fighting both ends. It's been very interesting.
Did you have to fight on the price front as well? Did you have to reduce the prices or perhaps go to a smaller delivery mechanism, smaller packets of sales to ensure that the consumer interest and demand is sustained?
No, we did not reduce our prices. We do not reduce our prices. There are two things that have been done. You talked about the smaller sizes and smaller prices, or low pickup price. I think that is not to do with competition. Most of the categories that we operate in, we are creating the categories. For example, if you take lav care, the household penetration in this country for specialized toilet cleaners less than 21%. So if you really want that consumer to buy, and she is looking for the ultimate toilet cleaner, you've got to give it to her at a price that she's going to buy. So we introduced the 200 ml pack about a few years back, and really invested behind that. So the smaller markets, what I call the semi-urban markets, that's responded very well. And then at the top end, it would be silly to say that one did not have to increase the amount of competitive spend, be it consumer promotions or investment on media. So both ends. Interesting.
It's not just the discerning consumer, the way you are growing, and to get a sense of that, it's also the new consumer. Is it enough to say that you make Dettol and they better buy it? Is it enough to say that you have Cherry Blossom or Harpic, which are again very established brands? When you go to a new consumer in a downturn, or as we talk about the future as well, how difficult is it to convince them that a strong brand means quality, or do they even recognize the brand? Because in some of the tier 2 cities, they may not even care whether Dettol or Cherry Blossom is present. They might be very happy with the products that they had earlier, or they may not even need a product like that.
Are you going to ask me all the marketing strategies of Reckitt Benckiser, or?
As much as I can get out of you.
I think the consumer insight is simple. On the one hand, the consumer needs to be communicated very clearly the reason why she should move from whatever she's using. So let's take a specific example of, let's say, Harpic. The consumer is using either acids or phenyls, or even the detergent out of the wash is putting it into the toilet. What had to be communicated and has to be communicated, and I said earlier that the household penetration for specialized toilet cleaners is just about 21%. What has to be clearly communicated is that if you want a perfect clean, if you want all those marks to go away, the hardware stains, if you want germ protection, if you want all that is absolutely right for your house, for your family, then you better use the right kind of product.
We shall take a short break here. We're going to be talking about the future with Chandar. In just a short while, we'll talk about the new product launches that he has lined up. We'll try to get the maximum out of him. At the same time, we'll talk about how the markets are going to be over the next couple of years as the consumer confidence comes back. Stay with us. We're talking to Chandramohan Sethi, Chairman and Managing Director of Reckitt Benckiser, makes lots of brands, 17 power brands. You must have heard of Colin and Strepsils as well. Of course, big brands like Dettol are also in the fold. Chandra, you were telling us that out of the 17 power brands that you have, 10 are already in India. So my first and the most important question is, when are the rest of the 7 coming in?
The challenge for me is to make sure that whatever we have continues to grow exponentially. And therefore, I need to make sure that the 4 power brands that we've introduced in the last 4 years and finished, that's the 5th one, make them mega. So, it's a journey which goes on and on and on. We are spending huge sums of money on these brands to create the markets. And that's the challenge, creating the markets. When will the others come? They wait their turn.
Chandra, talking about the future, where do you see the growth coming from in the next 2 to 10 years in terms of geographies and product categories?
You know, in the product categories that we operate on, I think we have not even scratched the surface. Every single category, and without any exception. I could talk about depilation, I could talk about laugh cleaning, I could talk about surface, I could talk about, you know, any of these categories. Because the household penetration is so small, and I'm only talking about penetration now, and then consumption is on top of that. So there's going to be a lot of growth. I think the other aspect is, you know, it's India shining. India is the market of the future, there's no doubt on that. I think the secondary markets will grow. The consumer is going to have a lot more money, and therefore, you know, what you call the B-class, C-class towns, that's where the growth will take place.
My question is that in terms of growth, now, could you share some of your fresh investment plans? A lot of manufacturing is being done in India. What kind of growth and investment do you see in India over the next 5 years to meet your growth agenda?
I think your question is more in terms of where does Reckitt Benckiser, where do I see the relevance of Reckitt Benckiser India? Developing markets is the future for virtually all companies. Developing markets is the focus for Reckitt Benckiser Global. India is in the top 1 or 2 developing markets for Reckitt Benckiser. That we are very focused on this country is obvious from the fact that it has, now we put in a huge amount of investment. Huge is all relative, but huge amount of investment in FMCG terms. So you've got a new plant already in Uttaranchal, a second plant coming up in Uttaranchal. We put up a plant in Jammu, put up a plant in Himachal, in Parwanu. So we're expanding.
Would you, and I don't think you want to share the figures, but could you also tell us whether India could also be a manufacturing base for your, if not regional South Asian markets, but perhaps global markets as well?
I don't think it's a question of sharing figures. I mean, I have no problem in saying that we are very seriously looking at India as a sourcing base. We already are a sourcing base for some of our products, and the massive facilities that are being put up are not only to meet the Indian demand, but also for the global demand, and particularly Asia.
How would you define, when you say sourcing out of India, how would that sit into your overall revenues out of India?
Very small.
And do you see that growing?
I think it'll be significant.
So would you see a 2-fold or a 5-fold growth?
Could be anything between 2 and 5-fold.
Over the next 5 years?
Yeah.
Where are you right now, and what kind of growth do you see for Reckitt Benckiser for the next 5 years?
We are not the largest FMCG in this country. We are also not the smallest. We are a significant size company, just to very broadly in the ballpark of plus minus about 2,000 crores and more.
And the growth in the last few years has been at what percentage?
Double digit, high double digits.
And you hope to maintain that over the next few years, or do you see a high or even higher double digit growth?
Oh, no, we do have visions of accelerating growths. India is, in my view, a big opportunity, a big investment market. And if we don't do that, somebody else will. We don't like others to take that space.
In terms of raising funds, most of, I would assume, the raising funds for the company would be internal. You have fantastic revenues coming in. Would you look at a listing plan as well in India?
No.
It's been completely ruled out, or could that be considered in the future?
No, it's a question of a global policy in terms of we have more than 50 companies around the globe. We are all, there is a listed company, that's Reckitt Benckiser PLC. All others are not listed.
So that's how the global policy is going to remain for a while?
As of today, yes.
Great. One final question to you, Chandar. Indian market, you're seeing emerging markets in India remain very strong for a company like you. As you go ahead, which is the biggest challenge for a company like yours, and which would be the biggest opportunity for a company like yours?
I mean, if you're talking about the government policies, etc., I don't see that as a major challenge. There's no question I wish the infrastructure was much better. And there was much more facility in terms of being able to move goods and so on. So.
Thanks, Chandra. Thanks for talking to us on Bloomberg UTV, and we hope that all the 17 power brands that you have in your stable are riding very high in India. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.